Hey, hey. Good evening. This is Jim McLaughlin, Chester Masterminds, episode number 17. Good evening, Mr. Jean-Pierre, Uncle P, leader and of the free world and of the Chester cultivating mature positivity here in Chester. And I'm grateful to again be with you this evening and your lovely daughter, who is joining us in the studio this evening. We're pleased to be with you again this week. I don't have any news this week. I made an attempt, and I want to let you know that we're inviting a general contractor and multiple serial entrepreneur in this evening, Dr. Albert G. Davis Jr. But I do always want to do a little bit of homework before we do these to see what kind of news is about the industry of the person that or the group of folks that are coming in to see us, just to see what's going on. But one of the things that I found is that there are not a lot of black-owned construction general contractors. There just aren't that many out there. So I'm honored and pleased to have somebody here who's demonstrating that on a daily basis, and we're looking forward to the conversation. I did note there's one down in Philly called Choates. You might have heard of them, but
yes.
But in any case, they seem to be doing some good things down there, and I know you do work in Philly as well. So without further ado, and Uncle Pete, do you have any other comments for us this evening before we get rolling, or are we good to go? He's checking out his cable, getting everything plugged in here.
I'm good to go, man.
You're good to go.
It's a pleasure to sit here and listen to y'all talk. I was just listening to y'all talk a couple seconds ago.
Yeah, getting ready for the interview, and we've covered a lot of ground already, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with our folks here today. So once again, always our goal here on Chester Masterminds is to provide a channel for conversation about entrepreneurship in a lot of different ways, and to let you know that there is a community of entrepreneurs out here in the world who are both knowledgeable and interested in sharing what they know and helping others to succeed in entrepreneurship in any number of ways. So if you see somebody or have seen one of our guests here on the show that you feel resonates with the kind of challenges or interests that you have, and you want to reach out to them, either get to them directly, or you can reach them through me or Uncle P or anything that any way you want. But we want you to know that there's a good base of support, and it's all about growing Chester's entrepreneurial spirit and growing the Chester economic environment in general. And so with that, I want to introduce Dr. Albert G. Davis Jr. here with us today, and to talk about what he has done as a community leader and as an entrepreneur on multiple levels. So welcome, Dr. Davis. I appreciate you being here today.
Hey, Jim, I appreciate the opportunity. It's good to be here. Before I get in trouble, I need to mention my 5-year-old daughter.
Okay, well, please do.
She told me to make sure I say hey and tell everybody she's 5 and that she loves Daddy.
Oh,
So,
well.
her name is Omani.
Omani. Well, so Omani, we're pleased to have you. Please drop a note into the even at 5, or have your mom or somebody drop a note into the chat for the program and let us know you're out there, and let everybody know that you love Daddy, and we do too, because we're all about that. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get into this? The degrees, the skill. There's a backstory to Dr. Davis that we'd love to know.
There's a little bit there. I'm originally from New Orleans. Left New Orleans after Katrina. Started out in construction way back when I was 19 years old. Was in Bible college at the time. Working my way through school, needed a way to make some extra money. So started working with some people, and it kind of came naturally to me. Stayed with it, continued my training. My doctorate is in sacred theology.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a bit of a crossover there. But we were able to take the principles we learned for just good business practices that are based in spiritual concepts, but then we took that and we moved it into business.
Right.
Done a few other things. I do have a nonprofit organization that we grew out of as a result of ministry. Maintained that, did some traveling around the world, met a lot of people and grew a network, and things just happened as we moved. And then we ended up where we are now, where we have a group called the Empowerment Management Group, and it's a kind of a meeting of all the things that I've experienced. So we have the nonprofit piece where we bring that to bear, the benefits that we can bring to the table on that. But then my entrepreneurial work, bread and butter type work, what started out for me renovating houses, maintained that, learned more about the business as I moved on, and then we switched over and started doing some commercial stuff as well. But then I had a desire to want to help people, so I started doing some entrepreneurial development, and then working with other people who I met in the industry on the way, and shared with them the principles that work for me. So out of that, it grew into us having a coaching program, entrepreneurial coaching. So we got a lot of stuff going on, but it all kind of meets together. And oddly enough, it fits because we're all about sustainable living. We're about living a clean life, a life that we can maintain. Nothing, off the rails. We're not trying to get into some lofty living, but just good, plain living, and then bringing those principles to bear so people can go to work, they can renovate property, they can buy property, they can own their communities, and at the same time, they can make a living doing that.
Right.
And that's a big part for us.
And I think that, in setting up any business, a lot of it is about how you're differentiating yourself. And I in the conversation, I think so from other general contractors in the ways that you've described in involving. So tell me a little bit about that process of involving your homeowners or property owners in the process of renovation, and that you just described of the process.
Well, one of the big things we do when we take on, let's look at just a renovation project. We may meet homeowners, and by the way, most of our business comes to us by word of mouth. And that's why it's so important to do good work, because that's the way you're going to sustain yourself in this industry. So let's say we meet a homeowner. One of the things we do with the homeowners is that we want to educate them and not just go in and fix their house. So we're going to kind of take them on that trip with us. We're going to help them understand why something needs to be demoed, why we need to replace this, why this is not sustainable, why we can't cover this up. And we're going to go blow by blow, step by step, and empower them to understand their home or to understand their property. So that at the end of the day, when we finish the whole renovation and we're walking away from it, we have an empowered homeowner who now knows how to maintain that home and also can sidestep being ripped off by another unscrupulous person who may come by and say, you need this when they don't need it. So a big piece for us is always the education part. That's with the client. What I'm doing with contractors as I'm meeting a lot of competent contractors in different fields. We have electricians, we have HVAC, we have plumbers, we have carpenters, roofers, landscapers, all of that comes, but same standard. We're educating them on the way. They need to understand how what their particular discipline does interacts with another discipline, and why you can't do the shortcuts. You can't not do something because it's going to affect the next guy coming behind you. Even if the renovation's completed, and we see this a lot, a renovation gets completed, but somebody didn't follow those universal rules. So now we're coming behind them to do a repair or to do a replacement, and we end up having to take an entire floor up because the subfloor wasn't put in correctly. So a big piece for us is creating relationships and educating as we go along. And that's the thing we do.
And how do you go? And so, what's the way that you do that? Do you have meetings? Do you bring your contractors together and talk through the project? What's the way that you convey that philosophy, if you will?
Yeah, it is communication based, relationship based. The young man who runs Empowerment Services, which is one of the subsidiaries for my company. His name is Andre P. He also is a contractor in his own right. But when I met him, we were able to connect, catch hold to him, and then go from him having just a business that he's running day to day to where we structured it. We helped him to get the wraparound services he need, connect him to accountants, bankers, and planners, and we do all that. But in the midst of helping him maintain his business, I also partnered with him to run my business. And what we do every day, every morning, probably Monday through Saturday, if not every 7 days a week, first thing in the morning, we're on the phone. And we're on the phone to talk about what we're doing today. Even if I don't see him that day or not till later, we've already discussed the schedule. We know what's going to happen step by step, but not just with Andre, who's the COO, Chief Operating Officer, but if we bring in, for instance, Tony, who does our HVAC services. If Tony's on a project, Tony's on the phone with us. If Casey is the guy who does our electrical, if he's there, he's on the phone. So it's a network, it's communication.
His uncle.
Okay. we are constantly talking all the time. And one of my mottos is that not one of us in charge, we're just first among equals at a particular moment. So if it's something pertaining to, let's say, HVAC, well, Tony's the lead guy. And that's who we're all gonna
Right.
listen to.
He's
work
the
with.
surgeon at that moment, and everybody else is
Exactly.
handing him the tools,
Yeah.
or working to make sure he's ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's first among equals. That's the way we do it. And it makes for a more cohesive process. Nobody's stepping on nobody's toes because everybody respects everybody else's spot. And that's a big thing. And then another big part is we make sure that we foster a relationship with the client. The person who owns that home or is going to be living in that home, or maybe we're going to end up managing it as a rental property. The idea is to set it up and go one house at a time and not take on a gazillion projects at one time. Take on the amount of projects that you have capacity for.
Right. So it sounds like you're working on the sustainability of the property for the long term. You're designing systems you're implementing your reconstruction renovation process in a way that respects the fact that this is a place where somebody's going to have to live for a long period of time, or you're going to have to operate it as a rental property for a long period of time. That we're just not once and done here. We're not in and out, gone, slam bam, thank you, ma'am, give me the check and I'm gone. You're there to respect the fact that you want to work with the homeowner or work with the property owner to say, we're with you through the period. We believe in what we do. Do you find that the cost of ownership is lower over time, or do you find that the returns, or in terms of having to go back and make repairs, or what's the word I want to? I'm just trying to think of some other metrics around the schedule. Is the schedule more reliable? Are you more likely to do your projects within your planned schedule because you have taken the advance perspective of, hey, we need to plan all this stuff out really well. All the contractors need to be in on the planning at that early stage, so that you're not scheduling one contractor back to back with no overlap, and which can just run out the schedule on a project like crazy. So
absolutely, that brings it to mind a project that we're kind of on the latter end of with a husband and wife who bought a piece of property. And I'll walk you through our process, what we ran into with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my questions is, walk us through a project that you're going to do. That's great.
We actually met this couple, oddly enough, through a very simple job we were doing. Someone contacted and they needed a very simple repair. It was something as simple as making sure that the steps on their back door were stable. We did that job. We went in. We did it with excellence because that's our standard. And I require that standard. No matter how simple the job is or how complicated it is, we're going to cross all our T's. We're going to dot all our I's. When we did this job for this young lady, immediately she said to me, "You need to meet my sister." Well, her sister had purchased a property, and she had been sitting on that property, and unfortunately had ran into some some bad contractors. Well, we went in, they were considering selling the property. After talking with them, I explained to them that it is going to be a cost for you to renovate this, but you don't want to sell, because another big thing, my theme is just sustainability,
Right.
even from a financial standpoint. The way we're going to help the citizens of Chester become owners again is that we need to make sure they stay owners. So don't sell
Right.
and that was a big thing for me. So I said to this couple, don't sell, let me get my team in here. And this is how the process started. We come in with my COO, we look at the job. He gives me his numbers for what he's going to do. We make a determination, we need HVAC. So now we need to call Tony. So Tony's gonna come in and he's gonna give me his numbers. The electrician's gonna come in, he's gonna give me his. The plumber's gonna give me his. Landscapers, painters, everybody's gonna give me their numbers. We're gonna take those numbers and we're gonna put them into an algorithm. We're gonna figure out what it is. We're gonna come up with a number for the owner. Then we're gonna break it down into phases. We're gonna have phase 1 is gonna be this, phase 2, so forth and so on. And we're gonna present that true numbers to the client, let them make a decision. Not in this case, but in many cases, when we get those true numbers, some people says, well, I don't wanna spend all of that money. Well, when that happens, I can tell you of a certainty, Empowerment Services, we walk away. Because what we're not gonna do is do shortcuts that we very well know as professionals is gonna cost you more in the end. Because it's gonna damage, it's gonna
Right.
ruin my credibility. Because regardless of what the situation is, Jim, when people are trying to save money and doing shortcuts, they're still looking for top-notch work. They just don't wanna pay that top-notch
Right.
dollar. And if you go in and you do the shortcut and you make it work, in a short period of time, they're gonna come back saying, you didn't do it right.
That's right.
So we
Yep.
we avoid that.
We avoid all that.
We walk away from that. We sit down, we talk to the owner says, okay, let's do it. One thing that we always build into is miscellaneous, because there's something
course,
we
there's-
didn't see. And something can happen that we didn't think was gonna happen. And the one commitment that we always make, I make it to all of my clients, I make it to all of my contractors, and all the contractors, we make it to each other, is that we're not gonna abandon the job if we start it. No matter how long it takes, no matter what may come up, unforeseen things happen. One of the things that makes this process so difficult is that contractors will tend to walk away when the money starts running out. Well, we have to sometime re-engage the client. And in this situation, we had to re-engage the client, and we had to come up with another strategy. So what did we do? We secured the property at the point where it was. We made sure we put our sign outside the property. It actually, my company's sign is there. Every week we cut the grass. We go back and forth. We check the property every night or so to make sure that no one in the neighborhood is going in, vandalizing, and ruining the work that the client has put in. And we got past it. And that doesn't happen all the time. But in this situation it did, but we stay with it. And that's the big part. So after we get all of the phases down and we can pick back up, we come back in and we finish where we stopped and we get it done. And then we get it to the point where the owner's either gonna occupy it or the owner's gonna rent it out. And that's our approach. It's a formula. We do it the same way every time.
And I mean, what I'm hearing in the words is the word integrity, and making sure that you stand by the word that you've given about how the work is going to go, and recognizing that things are not always perfect. Things do happen, but even when that happens, you're going to stand by the work that you've got to go do, and that's
Do what we said we were gonna do.
And I think from my point of view, I always want to see contractors who recognize that the community is not going to prosper, and a contractor's reputation is not going to prosper if we see shoddy work that is ultimately going to tear down the appearance or function of a home or property within the community. It's just long term, there's not a lot of prosperity there. You may think that, again, this is it's not a one and done thing. You're invested as much as if they've invested in you in making the change, you are invested back into making sure that what you're doing is going to build up the community over the long term, and that's important.
The long term is the catchphrase.
Right.
As a general contractor and the owner of the business, when I bring in a contractor or a subcontractor, I'm going to respect their talent. I'm not going to try to Jew them down on their prices or reduce their cost.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever number they give me is the number I'm going to give them. A lot of general contractors, unfortunately, in the industry, we want to get the lowest possible price from the general contract, from the subcontractor, so that we can add more onto it. Well, at the end of the day, and it's a lesson I learned from the elders and the mentors who I had, it's much more profitable to have a faucet that leaks and fills up a bucket than to turn it on wide open and turn it off. So I'm looking to make the money over the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
I can pay my subcontractor, which I know he's going to go in, he's going to give me his best work because he's happy about the fact that he's going to get paid. I may make minimal on that, but at the end of it, I'm going to have a relationship with a client, and we're going to manage this property, and I'll get a little bit over a long period of time.
Right.
And that's the model for us.
That's great. So you mentioned mentors and others. How did this is something that we talk about on the show is the need for mentors. Everybody has a network. Everybody relies on others who've come before them to guide them. Who are some of the folks that you learned those lessons from over your
my goodness,
short career, long maybe?
So at age 19, I was a kid on the street in New Orleans.
Nolans, right?
Yeah, Nolans. And there I was, and either looking for trouble or trouble was looking for me. To my benefit, I found church. My mom raised us in church, but we tend to stray. But I found church, and there I was at church, and the person who initially taught me to work was a young man by the name of Lewis Hall. He was a deacon at the church, and he brought me on to keep me out of trouble, to give me a job to do. As a young father, needed a job. I started doing firework with him, insurance jobs.
Mm-hmm.
He brought me on to basically go in and tear out. That was my job. And I stayed with him, and he taught me. And he began to teach me how to look at what's here, even though you have to tear it out. Look at what's here. Remember it, sketch it, whatever you need to do, but you're going to put back exactly what's here. And over time, he mentored me.
Mm-hmm.
He mentored me in the framing of houses and how to put on a roof and all of that. To my benefit, also, my pastor worked for Murphy Oil Company, Ernest Dyson. And Pastor Dyson was a pipe fitter by trade. And now he's pastoring the church. And every little job comes along at our little community church. Mother might need a leaky faucet or something fixed, so pastor's going to take me with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned pipe fitting.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happened for electrical. The same thing happened for landscaping. I just was benefited to have people in my life who came along and having enough sense about myself at the time to say, well, I can just learn this one thing. Not knowing later on it would all come together.
Right.
But those were my mentors. And these were no-nonsense mentors. They didn't play any games.
Right.
You're going to do it right or you're not going to do it at all. And, you give them a price, and this is something that sticks with me unto this day. Give somebody a price, and the price you give them is the price you're going to do the job for.
It may not work out that way, but you learn from that.
Yes,
right?
And you learn from it, and it became the standard for me to build a business from. And those were some of my mentors. Later on, developing in church, I became a youth pastor. Then I worked with all the ministry stuff. But then I had an opportunity to work for the World Food Program. And I went in, I got on the ship and literally started traveling around the world. I had mentors on that ship. who also taught me the principles of budgeting, because I worked as a chief steward. So I learned how to order what you need, maintain your money, and spend your money wisely. Again, not knowing how all this stuff was going to fit together, but it all fit together this way. And those are my mentors. Still have relationships with the majority of those.
Good.
Can pick up the phone, ask questions, have concerns, or sometime, to my honor, my mentors even call me and ask me about something because they have watched me develop and become what it is that I am now. And it's like, well, you know, call Davis, he can help us.
Right.
And that is one of the most humbling things.
Right.
ever
When it flips around like that, and you realize that you're now able to be, one of the equals, part of the colloquy, as it were. You've matured to that point. And,
that African proverb that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, has a twofold meaning. When the student is ready to learn, the teacher shows up to teach him. But when the student has learned, the student becomes the teacher.
Yes.
So, and that's been my life.
And so I'm going to pull on this because you've traveled the world. I mean, one of the things that I've learned is the mind expansion and the understanding of humanity across the globe. There are certain general truths that we see when we travel. We recognize, there's different clothing styles or musics or whatever, but we still have certain things that we all do. And so you traveled to many different countries. At least in your profile, you've indicated, 23 different countries? Or
31.
31, I'm sorry. But that's, to see cultures in that many different cultures. What kind of perspective did that give you, and how does it affect the way you run your business?
Well, the first thing it did for me, it removed me from this idea of like entitlement. I came to realize that everybody doesn't owe you everything. That was the first thing. And then the things we take for granted that we take for granted. Something as simple as clean water, or, it helped me to understand the value of a thing. And then because I understand the value of it, then we're gonna be better stewards of it.
Right.
And traveling changed my life, Jim, literally. And mind you, I was working for the World Food Program. So the places we were going were places
that needed food.
Yes, we're bringing food.
Right.
So I'm meeting these individuals from, all these different countries. And the simplest things, I mean, some places I went, I'll never forget, I think it was Bulgaria. And the big thing there was sliced bread. Another place, Montesino, which is right outside of Haiti. Apples was, an apple was, it was
gold.
Yes.
Right.
And these simple things like this that gave me a different perspective. So when I came back, and then you look at things differently, and then you realize, well, I need to be a better steward of what it is that I have, this benefit, this privilege that I have. But not just that, create a business, create something whereby you can encourage other people to have that same benefit and that same stewardship for what they have.
Right.
And that
Well, I think that's a powerful word. Stewardship is something that I'm quite familiar with, and I applaud you for pointing that word out, because in every business, I think we need to have, in terms of entrepreneurship, if we have a mindset towards stewardship, I think we're going to be better. We're going to be better suppliers, service providers. We're going to make better parts. We're going to make our customers happier. We're going to be more engaged with the total customer need at the end of the day, which you've already talked about. The sustainability of the properties after you walk away from them is an important, and that's an inherent idea of stewardship around what's going on here. And so we talked before the show about the supply chain from resource to waste.
Yes.
And so tell me how you think about that, because it's an important issue within the construction trade of where do you get your supplies from, and then where are the demolition wastes and other construction wastes go. How does that?
And what part of what we're actually taking out can we use differently?
Differently, yeah.
What can we recycle? One of the things that stick out for me, because my business, we are operating in the tri-state area. So we're doing a lot of work in Philly. We're doing a lot of work in Baltimore, in the Maryland area. We're doing some work in Jersey. Of course, we're doing work in Delaware. But one of the things that stick out, as I'm doing work in Philly, Philly is booming with renewables. They are in one particular neighborhood, Point Breeze, which I don't know if a lot.
Southwest Philly, yeah.
Yeah. They're doing tremendous work over there. But what sticks out, Jim, is that they're not tearing stuff down. Okay, yes, they're gutting it out, they're taking it back down to the framework, and they're taking a lot of those old systems out. They're taking a lot of the galvanized piping out. They're taking the lead out. They're doing a lot of stuff. And we're going back in with new services and new systems that's gonna make these homes more efficient. And then we're gonna rebuild them back with sustainable product. Simultaneously, I have projects going on here in Chester where we're not doing a lot of renewable stuff. And one of the misnomers is that it's too expensive, when actually it's more economical to do sustainable. But the big part of that, because we're not doing a lot of the renewable stuff in Chester, we're demoing a lot of stuff. And we're actually tearing stuff down, and it's scorched land. We're wiping it out. You see it all the way down the 291
291 corridor, yeah.
You see all these empty lots popping up, where a week ago there was a house there. If a building is not compromised structurally, there's no reason to tear it down. Do we need new windows? Probably. Do we need new siding? Probably need a new roof. Probably need some new electrical, new plumbing. Great, all of that. But that doesn't justify us tearing down a whole building and then coming out with this scorched land. And then coming back with an idea to build something new. Because it is possible, because I know it's possible because my company is doing it. We're doing it in
Philly.
Baltimore, we're doing it in Philly, we're doing it in some places in Jersey. I have networks and partnerships down in New Orleans still. And New Orleans is an old city. We're doing it down there. What sticks out to me is, why aren't we doing it? And a lot of it is due to miseducation. A lot of it is due to ignorance. But the other thing that promotes this miseducation and ignorance is that we have things in place from a governmental standpoint, from corporate standpoints, and people trying to keep old business models in place. And they're not allowing that new business to flourish. So let's say, for instance, let's talk about this demo thing, Jim. We're tearing stuff down and we're bringing it over to an incinerator and we're burning it. And we're causing, it's collateral damage.
Yes.
And a lot of times as contractors I talk to, other general contractors, we're not thinking about what that collateral damage is when we're looking at this person wants a new kitchen. We're not realizing, by us pulling all of this stuff out of here, not looking at it from a sustainable standpoint, from a renewable standpoint, just take it all out, dump it on the street, have some guy come pick it up, let him haul it off.
And wherever it goes, it goes.
Wherever it goes, it goes. All of this deals, the economics come into play. I mean, it's like a snowball effect, because we have one of the largest incinerators here, where a lot of my trash guys can't even dump their trash there because they're getting trash from Philly. So,
Or New York,
or New York, or wherever. So that system is to capacity. So then my guys are charging me more money on the front end because they got to drive to a further place,
Right.
which means they're taking their money to that further place. So because we have not approached it from a logical standpoint and say, well, okay, let's look at this renewable thing, let's do it right, we're losing money, we're losing time, we're polluting the neighborhoods, we're polluting communities, we have health impacts. All of this came from one guy not renovating a kitchen.
One decision.
One decision. And we have to look at it from the greater standpoint. Just like you said, everybody is happy about the new shiny stuff that they see. So they want that new flooring. They want
Right.
those LED lights.
Right.
All this. I'm more concerned with what's behind the wall. Because if that wiring is not right, that run into that LED
Right.
light, we're going to have problems. And one of the things we have to do is look at the whole process, start to completion. If I'm doing demo, where's the waste going from my demo? Can I bring any of it over to Habitat for Humanity? Can I reach out to the group you were telling me about over in Baltimore? Can we bring them in and let them do the sustainable demolition?
Right.
Those are the things that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a movement, and it's not large yet, but there's a movement, certainly with the company, Second Chance is the name of it down in Baltimore. But to thinking, so much of American construction has been brand new. You know, there's just a deep history of new construction everywhere. But now that cities are built up, you know, and they're aging, you know, there's a whole different kind of construction
Yes.
that needs to take place. And what you've described about thinking about renewables, reusing, and you know, that takes that stewardship mentality and applies it to that industry. That we have a stewardship responsibility for our community, for the environment, and frankly for the local economy, as you mentioned. You know, let's keep the money local if we can.
Let's turn
those dollars right around, right where we are. If it's not directly in Chester, it's in the region or something, but it's going to stay closer to home than sending it, you know, miles and miles away.
Absolutely.
You know, and you essentially take somebody's hard-won income because somebody had to make that money, and transporting it out of the area. Away from where it might do the most economic benefit.
And the approach to this, to come to the point where we can realize it, starts at the level of us having that communication with our client, helping the client understand this is why we need to do it this way. Be the expert. I say to my contractors, and I maintain for myself this standard, be the professional on the site. Explain to them what it is. Remove yourself from this idea of getting this money and moving to the next one. I say another thing I say a lot of stuff, Joe. Another thing I say is, and it's even in my introduction letter when I first send a person a quote. They actually get an introduction letter with that quote, and that introduction letter says, you know, we have 35 plus years in this business, and our desire is to make you a client and not a customer. And if more contractors, more general contractors, will take on that mentality of making clients and not customers, then they're going to start building relationships. And that is where we can start this whole process. Mm-hmm. And the challenges that we are faced with, the hurdles, the obstacles we have, we can dismantle all of those just by starting out with one client, one relationship at a time, and renovating their property, educating them along the way. So when you do move on, let's say you move on to something else as a contractor, you've educated that person, so when the next contractor comes along, the client will hold them to a standard. And the way that we weed out these contractors who are wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, we equip customers to say, I'm not doing business with you.
Right. We're going to take a quick break because I want to advertise for the station a bit, but I do want to come back and hear more about the other businesses that you do. So stand by a second. You know, Uncle P, you've got an amazing station here. You're trying to connect our community together to engage on topics of substance and meaningful effort for all of Chester. And you've got almost 4 years. You're coming up on your 4-year anniversary doing this. You've got a big raise-a-thon coming up. So tell me a little bit about that before we go for. And I apologize. I also forgot to do our wonderful sponsors at the beginning of the show.
It's cool. But we were rushing. I got Jordan with me, my baby girl. So the raise-a-thon is important. Just to add money to the mix so we can have shows of good content, right? Not just people that want to pay for shows, but giving people that have access to credit building and financial success and ideas, right? An option to come up here and do a free show under our
umbrella.
Project Engage, right? Our
yes.
Project Engage umbrella. So it's just trying to find the money. Where's the money, right? The community, chip in some money, sponsorship, business, right? So just trying to find those people is always it's trying. It's trying. It's very hard.
It's a challenge, but I think finding the way that bringing the content, the more content shows that engage on issues that Chester community cares about, the more likely it is we're going to find sponsors. And we want to invite sponsors, because if you, as a sponsor, want to be engaged in the future of Chester, if you want to be engaged in economic, and cultural and social development of this great community, and you want to be known as a partner with the community and with this station in bringing about those kinds of change, then we invite you to come in as a sponsor, and we invite you to participate in this. It's not an experiment anymore, but it is still a growing project to bring communications and engagement to the community. So thank you again, always, every week, for what you do and how hard you work to make this station available for the community. And and Jordan's got a great dad for all that you do. You want to mention sponsors real quick before we,
Yeah, we, as always, we have Northern Marketing, Mecca, Nerds Family Kitchen, Inspire Clothing Line, Mind Our Own Businesses, KC Electric, the Boys and Girls Club of Chester, Pennsylvania, Pressure Inc., TFG Tax Pros, Abstract Kings, and LeBron Construction. Also, today's show is provided by LaToyson Law, owned and operated by Chester native Enrique LaToyson. LaToyson Law is there for you when you need it most. They can handle all of your legal needs. Support Chester's own LaToyson Law. They handle property transfer, criminal defense, and all other legal needs. The right firm right now. That's 610-999-1439. Again, the right firm right now. And August 20th through the 22nd, we're doing our Raise-a-thon. That's when we really do it. August 20th, we're launching. We'll be down on 9th and Engle. We'll be tagging. Now, someone thought that tagging meant we'd be spray painting. And so I had to explain that to him Monday. I'm saying, no, we're not spray painting anybody. We're out soliciting and asking for donations. We'll have a little card we'll give to you, maybe a wristband or something. We don't want you to walk away with nothing. And we want you to remember CMP. Right. Look us up. Download us on Live 365 and give us a listen, right?
Tune in, yeah.
August 21st is the actual Raise-a-thon. We'll be here in the station for 2 hours talking about what's going on at Chester Park. Then we'll be at Chester Park from 1 to 6 p.m., right? We'll be out there, community. We got performers, we got vendors, we got guests. We got all types of things happening on the 21st. And then on the 22nd, we're doing a CMP Appreciation Day, right, where I give awards to all of our shows and our sponsors, right?
That's wonderful.
Tell them thank you, I appreciate it, and hopefully they stick around and we keep on growing.
Awesome, yeah. It's gonna be.
If you could see where this station came from, literally 4 years, like it's hard work that goes into this, right? And there's very little that comes back, right? But it's all gonna come back. It's all gonna, what goes around comes around. So we just keep moving. But yeah, and as a reminder, we will be taking a break for August. Otherwise, for most of our shows, to allow us to retool and think about what's going on across all of the programs and activities within the station. So people won't be able to hear that for that month, but
certainly come out to the Raisathon and participate and enjoy all the things that you have planned in there. And just before I move on real quick, next week we have a triple hitter. We have Sharday Davis, we have Twyla Simpkins from the Yes Center, and we have Patricia Tripley from the soccer program.
Right.
So we're talking, and the point of the next week's show is nonprofits. We talk a lot about for-profit operations on this program, but next week I have a focus on nonprofits and what it takes to set up, operate, and sustain a nonprofit operation through the eyes and minds of the of some leaders here in the community. So I look forward to hearing everybody and participating in that. And before we get back here, if you're listening and you have any questions, you have anything that you'd like to ask of Dr. Davis, please chime in on the chat, and we look forward to hearing from you for that. So, Dr. Davis, thank you again for being here. I'm extremely grateful to integrity, stewardship. This is what it's all about, and you've built another set of businesses that are adjunct to what, and subsidiaries to what you do. So tell us a little bit about what those are all about.
Sure will, but just before that, I want to make a commitment that we're going to help sponsor this also. So I'm going to get with the young man after we're over, which is also a good segue because another one of the things we have is a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
It grew out of my ministry work, Bethel Ministry and Diocese, but we do fundraising and we sponsor families for different times of the year. We do some sponsoring. We pick a couple of families and we sponsor the family for the entire Thanksgiving and Christmas season. And that basically means we sponsor them for their holiday dinner or shopping, whatever that is, especially for Thanksgiving and dinner. But we also have another thing we do for the summertime for kids, and we do a lot of back to school stuff. And we try to partner with other nonprofits in the area. Our nonprofit has been in existence since 2013, still in good standings. And we basically partner to give back. And that's an ongoing process that we have. And we're doing something year round.
That's great.
Raising money for something.
That's great.
And then our thing is just hand to hand. So we get the money, in our hand, we put it in somebody else's hand. And we vet those people, of course, and make sure that what we're giving them money for is what they're going to be using it for. So we have that.
That sounds great. Yeah.
But other businesses we have empowerment publications because I'm big on disseminating information.
Okay.
I've already written 5 books. You can get them all on YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, on Amazon. Yes. And so the publishing piece, Empowerment Publications, is there to help other authors or people who are wanting to write, to give them a platform to get their information out there as well. So that's one business we got. That's constantly going. We also have Empowerment Finance, which is one of our newer endeavors, and that will consist of helping people to gain some financial literacy, help them do some asset protection, help them to keep their property from going to probate, understanding why they need more than just a will.
Yep.
So we have that going on, but we're also putting together investment clubs where we can pool people together, where they can pool their resources, purchase property, and then in turn we can work with empowerment services to renovate those properties. That's another business. And then we have a coaching program. We do entrepreneurial coaching to help people who have a desire to have a business, but then we take them and turn that hustle into a legitimate business to where we connect them with wraparound services, be it accountants, be it lawyers, get their LLC done, make sure their taxes are straight, make sure they're doing all the stuff that they need to do to run legitimate business. Right. And that just makes for kind of a self-feeding support system.
So you've got a sort of an enclave of support, all the little elements it takes to operate and to share what you've learned, as a business owner, the things every business needs, you're trying to make it available through your own business. How would people? So we haven't provided a website or anything. What if people want to get to know you and the businesses? How can people find you online? Is there a website or something that you?
There is a website. It's www. That's THE a dash and then the letters emg.com or .org.
Okay.
They go there. That's kind of like the hub where everything is, and there'll be links where they can click on to whatever particular business that they want to get connected to.
So the-emg.com
Yes.
is how we get to it. That's great.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I tried to find it before our meeting, and I neglected to ask you for that. So I appreciate that.
No problem at all.
So that's all of the different businesses that you have right now. What's your vision going forward? Are you looking to expand that list, or what's your vision now?
The vision now is to use the structure I have and then go out and then empower other people to do what they're doing. I don't want to say duplication because it's not necessarily what I'm doing exactly, but to use the team, the system we've put together, identify people and help them to become what they believe that they're intended to be.
Right.
And that's our big thing. So regardless to what that business is, we're not in the business of telling people what business to go into. We're in the business of helping you succeed at whatever that business is.
That's great.
So
that's great.
That's our big thing.
I think I'm about out of questions. I wanted, we've talked about your network and how you came to know what you know. What are some of the biggest successes that you've had? Looking back across your illustrious career, what are the things that you're most proud of in setting this all up?
Well, let's see. That's a good one, Jim. Nobody ever asks me this.
Well, the people like to talk about problems, and we could talk about the challenges that you've had to overcome as well. But I also I know you wouldn't be still doing what you're doing if you hadn't had some successes, things that egged you on, that said, what I'm doing is working, what I'm doing is the right thing, and I can really see my learning, or I can see my organization solidifying and strengthening over time. And were there any events, or has it just been a steady progression? But almost always there's something that said, at the end of the day, you really have to smile and say, we did it.
Yeah,
we did that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those. One of the things that, and even now it happens, that when we've taken on an individual, they come to us and they do an entrepreneurial coaching. And when they got to us, they were at their wits' end. It was like, I lost my job, or I left my job, and whatever else the situation was. And then they start out with, usually they start out with life skills coaching. And we're dealing with the basic 10 principles for living good. Mm-hmm. And then from that, they make a decision, say, hey, I want to do the entrepreneurial course. So we do entrepreneurial coaching. And then months later, after they're outside of it, and they've gotten knocked around trying to get that business up and going, and then all of a sudden, I'll get a call. It's like, I'm having this event, I want you to come to it. And the event that they're doing could be the simplest thing to them. But what I see is all of those principles that we've taught along the way, now they're actually doing it. That is the thing that encourages me beyond anything else.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that they got this $1 million contract. It may because they took their intention, they put attention to it, they were disciplined with it, and they stuck to it, and now it manifested. And it could be something as simple as getting a brochure finished. I mean, simple stuff happens. And that's the stuff that encourages me. Another thing that encourages me, Jim, oddly enough, is when I encounter people who are ready to give up, who are just, nothing seems to be going their way from the way they see it. And then getting them to understand that there's really no such thing as failure. You're just learning the way not to do it. And when I can relay that information to them and develop that relationship with them, and then watch them blossom and become. The thing I look forward to all the time is after we've mentored a person and we've taken them through the courses, we've coached them, we've helped them to facilitate their businesses. The thing that honors me is when I can pick up my phone and call them up for that service. Like,
Just like happened with you.
yeah, somebody will call up and say, well, I need such and such going, and I can say, well, hold on, call this person. And when you call them, just tell them that Dr. Davis sent you. And they get the job done. That's the thing.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
It's been great talking to you. I look forward to learning more as we go, but it sounds like, if you got integrity and you've got stewardship nailed down, we can work through the rest of it. Everything else is going to be just fine. But and I appreciate the conversation about waste and sustainability of all that you're trying to think about in doing your projects, because I think for me that's a very important aspect to every industry, and I appreciate that you have that same sense as well. And it's good to meet folks who really take that to heart, and definitely support this gentleman.
Absolutely.
He's trying to do some good things around here, and we appreciate you having in.
Okay.
So anything else to add?
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate the way we met, talking with you on the phone, having the opportunity to come sit and talk with you. I'm honored. I appreciate everything.
Likewise, it's great. Well, thank you all, folks, for joining in, tuning in. It's another good show, Uncle P. We did it again. We got show number 17 done, and 18 is coming up next week. We've got some great folks. Hey, ma'am. Coming up next week to talk about their nonprofit experiences. So thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. And we're out. Thank you.
Thank you.